We're recording.
You gotta sync it, Hugo.
Oh no, I'm not liking. Remember? We're just using that one, so it's
Okay,
already
15 to 22, right?
15 to 22. Yes.
Okay.
Tim, start. When do you want?
So, hi everybody. Welcome to our third lit circle meeting for the Kite Runner.
Let's hear.
And for this section, we did chapter 15 to 22. And I'm just going to give a really brief summary of what happens in these chapters. Mm-hmm. So, in this chapter, we're talking about Amir going to Pakistan to see his friend Rahim Khan. And Rahim is pretty sick, but he tells Amir that there's a way for him to be good again, to kind of redeem himself. And Rahim Khan tells Amir of what happens to Hassan and how Hassan was executed by the Taliban. But he has a son that lives on in an orphanage, and Amir feels like if he rescues this son, he can somehow redeem himself from the things that he did to Hassan in the past. And basically, he sets out to find Sohrab, Hassan's son, and he meets a driver, and the driver called Farid, right? Farid?
Yep.
Yeah.
Farid.
And they meet Farid, and Farid basically is like, doesn't like him because Amir's American, and obviously there's a lot of tension because someone that leaves to America to kind of run from the problems in his own home country. But eventually Farid finds out about what Amir is really there for, and his intent, and he kind of welcomes him more after learning of that purpose. And so basically after that they go to Afghanistan, and basically Amir sees all of the destruction and all of the things that have happened in his home country, and he goes back to his old house, and he sees some of the things that have happened there, and he also sees, just the beggars on the street, and he meets a beggar that is one of his mother's old friends, and he was a professor, but now he's on the streets, and that kind of symbolizes all the the bad things that have happened in Afghanistan. And they also they go to a soccer game, or no, sorry, my bad. They go to the orphanage, and at the orphanage, they realize Sohrab isn't there, and they realize he's been taken by a Taliban official. So they go to a soccer game to find the official, and they witness a stoning at halftime for some reason. I don't know why you would do a stoning at halftime.
Why not? The question is why not?
Why not Taliban, right? So after that, they schedule a meeting with the official, and the official allows them to see him. And but then when Amir meets the official, he realizes that they already know he's American, and they expose him. And he also realizes that the official is actually Asef, old friend. The guy who raped Hassan earlier in the story. And basically they realize that Amir realizes that Sohrab is in Asef's possession, and basically Amir wants to take Sohrab, and Asef doesn't let him take him without a fight, and they fight each other, and basically Amir just gets wrecked, and but he feels redemption after being beat by Asef because he feels like he's atoning for some of the things that he did earlier to Hassan, and he feels like it's only right for him to suffer. And eventually, Sohrab tells Asef to stop, and he shoots him in the eye, or Sohrab shoots Asef in the eye with a slingshot, and Sohrab and Amir escape, and Amir passes out. So yeah, that's the summary. So, is there a quotation or vocab?
Yeah.
Vocab.
Okay, so the first word I have is dods, which is this word, I don't know, dods. I don't know how to pronounce
What do you
it.
thought?
D-O-Z-D-S.
Close enough. Close enough.
Yeah.
Does.
Does.
So essentially it's a word used by Farid and his brother to refer to like bandits. Essentially it means bandits, and they're just in the context they're using it to refer to, like, on the way there are a lot of like bandits around there, and just checking like you didn't actually get attacked, which is good. Second word I have is yatim, which means orphan, which is the orphan manager guide is kind of uses that word to refer to them. Bakshesh is actually, it has 3 different meanings. It's tipping, bribery, or charity. Amir hears this from a beggar in Kabul, and it's like one of the shocking things that he kind of sees when he goes through Kabul and sees all the differences, because now there were beggars before, but then now they're everywhere. There's even more, and Bakshesh is really, it's interesting that it can have so many different meanings at the same time. Next word I have is Parchami, which means communist, which Asif kind of refers to them. And Sharawi is Taliban. So you can kind of see 2 different groups in Afghanistan at that time. We've got the communists and the Taliban, so Russians. Then the last phrase I have is Allahu Akbar, which means Allah is greater, which is something Amir uses in reference in one of his paragraphs.
Okay, next.
Discussion questions?
Discussion questions.
That's you.
Yeah.
That's a you.
So I'm going to take out my discussion questions.
So what language do they speak? Because
Farsi.
it is Farsi?
Yeah.
Or is it a special dialect?
Um,
Because I know they refer to a few languages.
yeah, there's Farsi, there's Pashto,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So Pashtun, I guess, is the super local language.
Okay, I'm ready.
Sorry.
I'm ready.
So Rad knows.
Yeah.
Okay, so my first question is describe the effect on Amir after learning of Hassan's death and the implications it has for his quest in redemption.
Oh, jeez.
I really
Oh,
thought these
that's
out, guys.
quite heavy. So I'll start, I guess. So at the beginning, he was pretty wary and not too, what's the word? Not too focused, dependent.
Not too motivated.
Yes, that's the word. Thank you. He was not too motivated to find him until he found, until Rahim Khan explained the whole story to him about Hassan and his wife had a kid, and how the 2 parents got shot, and now just the kid who's in an orphanage. So then I guess that makes him feel even more guilty because he owes Hassan, and now he owes the kid. He owes the kid on top of that. So then now he wants to find him, and in the book place him in the care of those American orphanage owners who actually don't exist and were a lie.
Yeah.
So made by Rahim Khan. So that Amir would take the child and take care of him. Implications on his quest, was it?
Implication it has in his because he wants to redeem himself, right? So
Yeah.
how does that play into him redeeming himself?
So wait, what was the first part of the question?
Oh, the first part of the question?
Yeah.
Describe the effect on Amir after learning of Hassan's death.
Okay. Yeah. And Hassan finds out that just about Sohrab, his son, basically that he finds out that he has to go, and Rahim Khan, Rahim Khan knows the backstory between Hassan and Amir, so he kind of makes it he basically tells Amir you have no choice, and he basically is alluding to that, to what happened. He's saying you have to go because of your past. You have to make it right again, and go help Sohrab.
Kind of before he hears of that Hassan died, at first he's kind of hesitant of going all the time. He doesn't really want to bring the topic up because he knows it's going to be troubling for him. But once he hears that Hassan has passed away, then he realizes that it's real. He has to do something now because he has to redeem himself and for Sohrab as well.
He's responsible.
Yeah, he has no time to waste anymore. It's something actually happened.
Yeah, he feels some responsibility for his death. He's thinking in his mind, if I had acted differently, if I hadn't, forced Hassan and Ali to move out, maybe he wouldn't have died. Maybe things would have played out differently.
Yeah, I think that's something that's definitely sticks in his head before he learns about this, but it's emphasized even more when he hears about his death.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of perhaps he meant to go there and meet him and perhaps talk things through. but now he's more like he's more focused. He's got this goal, and I think like throughout the rest of the chapters, we can see he's very just like very focused on just getting Sorab and just rescuing him.
Good answers. So my second question is, sorry, but I forgot to mention a point. At some point, Amir discovers that Hassan is actually his half brother, because Baba actually had, I guess you could call it an affair with Ali's wife, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually Hassan, because Ali actually is not able to reproduce or conceive.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's sterile.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
sterile.
That's the word.
That's the word.
That's the word.
Ali's not gonna conceive.
Yeah. And so actually Hassan then definitely is the half brother of Amir. So knowing that, what is the significance of Baba's betrayal of Ali, his own best friend? Why is that significant?
I think it kind of mirrors what Amir was doing to Hassan. It's kind of, now Amir knows that his father was not just like the great man everyone thought. He also had a secret he was hiding, just like Amir was hiding a secret that he saw the rape of Hassan. And it kind of makes him feel a little more equal to his father, and it kind of gives him background to a lot of the events that happened. It kind of gives him understanding to why his father was treating Hassan a certain way, how he was treating Ali as well, and that he can reveal it though he wanted to, because they're technically both his sons, but he had to treat Amir differently because Hassan was like the servant.
Yeah, and I guess like the book within the book, there's this part where it talks about him discovering this was pretty much. It reminded him of Baba telling him that lying, like the only sin is stealing, and then lying is like stealing the truth from someone. So then the way that Amir puts it, he's like, he discovered that Baba had like committed this sin that he thought was the greatest sin of all, and then he, I guess in a way, felt closer to what Baba was to him, because now that he sees Baba's, I guess, weaker points, more human side, he doesn't see him as like a distant person, distant object that he can never match up to. He's like, okay, he lied, I did too. Okay.
And
It almost kind of lessens maybe the pressure he might feel on like how he acts, and just like maybe the possible guilt of like you see how his father kind of reacted to Ali and Hassan leaving, and he knows the reason for this now, and it's sort of like he understands more clearly, and I think he can just he can actually start. It's a beginning of to process a lot of what he did in his childhood as well. So it's sort of like dealing with his guilt. It's another step towards that.
He sees how Baba did something wrong, but Baba was still able to get over it and like keep living a normalish life. And then he sees how he did something wrong, but it affected him so much, so he's kind of like determined not to let it affect him so much anymore in a way.
Okay. So my third question is, how does seeing the barren land of Afghanistan and the terrible conditions of its people impact Amir on an emotional level? Specifically discuss Amir's return to his old house.
Well, what Fareed said at first, when he said, you've always been a tourist to this country, because before he was like super rich, he didn't really have to feel like the stuff that Hassan had to deal with, like being a slave. And now that he came back from America, he's also still a tourist. Everything changed, but because he fled, he's not really a part of it anymore. Like, Fareed was surprised that he still called it his hometown. So it's kind of changing how Amir thinks of his relationship with his country, or his home country, that he wasn't really a part of the real truth that was part of it from before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything's so different and being torn up by war, especially Kabul. Like he can't even recognize it really, and his home area, like he can't really recognize it either, just because it's so torn up by war. So that really has an emotional effect on him, because that was where like he grew up and everything.
I think the house also plays a pretty big role in that. It used to be his house, and then he basically sees and he's like, oh, I recognize that window. That's my room. I recognize where the cars were supposed to be and stuff like that. And then later on, when he enters the house, he finds out that Asaf lives in the house now. Like, yay! And then even Asaf brings up, like, I remember when your father used to hold these parties here and whatnot. So I guess that really hit home for him. It hit home for him.
The door's there, Hugo.
It hit home for him.
Okay. Any more comments?
Yeah.
Okay. So the fourth question is, why does Amir begin laughing when Asaf beats him?
Well, he feels like a great guilt has been released from him. Like he says, for the first time in 20 years or whatever, he feels free. He feels not like trapped anymore. So it's just like he finally gets beat up, and that's what he wanted 20 years ago, or however long it was. He wanted someone to just beat him and get it over with. So here, when Asaph finally does beat him, he finally feels like he can. He just kind of feels like it's good because he's getting punished for it, and he said he's finally getting punished, and he thinks that's what he deserves. So then that can happen and be over with.
Yeah, it's kind of like a punishment that he was like waiting for since a long time, and he's finally getting it. So he's like relieved, I would say.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a physical beating to let out his emotions, I guess.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
He enjoys it.
He does
Kind of
enjoy it.
Yeah.
I mean, until the point he gets in the hospital. But,
Yeah, that's not.
He doesn't hate it.
When the adrenaline runs out, he's like, this actually pretty much hurts a lot.
Fades in and out, fades in and out, fades in and out.
That's the next section.
So the next question is, this relates to the son of Hassan. So why is Sohrab so important to Amir? Any expectations for how their relationship will turn out? Assuming you haven't read. But.
Well, I mean, he's the son of Hassan, and then if you did, as Amir discovers that his half brother is Hassan, then Sohrab is essentially his half nephew, or however you want to put it.
Kind of, yeah.
So it's interesting because it almost like taking care of Sohrab and rescuing him has become his second chance at redeeming his guilt, and it's sort of he almost becomes like he plays a role like Hassan did to him, except to Sohrab, sort of like being there to support him and to like care for him and like all these things. And I think that's very much how it ends up being. It will become parallel, where since Amir's kind of he's let go of his guilt, he's dealt with it, and now he's going to sort of essentially become like Hassan to his son.
Just feels responsibility, I guess.
Yeah.
Owes him.
Yeah, that's my 5 questions.
That's your
Nice.
5?
Yeah.
Who's next?
Okay,
Connect-
passage
Connector?
master. Passage master.
Passage.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
it is. I'm pretty sure.
I've seen the order on the top.
That's how you do it.
I don't remember.
Okay, my first passage is or section of reading is on page 234,
What chapter is this?
chapter 17.
All right.
And basically, it's Amir being told that Hassan is his half-brother, and this complicates the situation and the relationships even more.
It's heavy.
And Amir reacts really strongly to having been lied to. Like, he's really mad at Rahim Khan that his whole life says his whole life has been a lie. And shortly after this, he even leaves Rahim Khan and just like goes walking in the streets. No reason really, but he's just like, it's just so like mind blowing. He doesn't know how to deal with it, and then to realize that his father actually had 2 sons, him and Hassan, and you can see why his father treated Hassan so well. So many things are just like he just realizes so much when Rahim Khan tells him that, and that's also why he has to go. He now finds out that he's related to Sohrab, so now he actually has a relation in which he has to go and help, and probably by Afghan culture, just being a relative, like he doesn't really have a choice. He has to go help him out. My second passage is on page 239. Which the end of that paragraph says, "I looked at the round face in the Polaroid again, the way the sun fell on it. My brother's face. Hassan had loved me once, loved me in a way that no one ever had or ever would again. He was gone now, but a little part of him lived on. It was in Kabul, waiting." So he basically finally decides, or it's implied that he decides to go find Sohrab and help him out, which is basically, it's kind of leading up to the climax of the book, really, which is like the end struggle of the book. That's his decision, but he's finally going to overcome. Finally going to fight for himself, because he's always been criticized by his dad and by Rahim Khan for not fighting for himself. He's going to stand up and go somewhere dangerous and try and get Sohrab.
Well, at first, he's very hesitant in going. He's like, I can't go. I'll send money to go get him. But he's like, that's not about the money. It's about, like, your own redemption. And then seeing the picture, it kind of, like, changes his opinion on it. And after he figures out that Hassan is his brother, then that is the final thing that convinces him to actually go pick up Sohrab.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Okay, and then my third passage is on page 244. Yeah, so we talked about it a little bit earlier, but it's basically where Farid says, you've always been a tourist here, and it shows that even before, like he lived in a nice house. It was 2 to 3 stories. It had a gate around it. They had servants. They had American cars. They lived a luxurious life. And he's basically saying you never really knew what Afghanistan was, because that's what you think Afghanistan is. But that's not really what Afghanistan is, because there's a ton of poverty. And when he's there now, he sees a lot of poverty just everywhere, especially in Kabul. He sees someone selling his leg just to get money because they were so desperate.
Let's clarify that. Prosthetic leg. Not his actual leg.
Yeah.
He's selling
Let's clarify that.
He's selling a prosthetic leg just to get money. And he says how he'd never actually worn a pakol. I think that's how you say it, Pakol, which is a little hat that the men would wear. But he had never worn that before, just because of his upbringing. But now he is wearing it just because he doesn't want to look too wealthy. And then my fourth passage is on page 294. Where it is basically, we find out that Asif has become a Taliban leader. And we saw all through his youth he was very, I don't know, he was just like evil. He liked Hitler, very rebellious. So it's not really a surprise.
He liked Hitler.
He liked Hitler. Like, what more can we say? It was not really a surprise, but he has become a Taliban leader, which I think was kind of foreshadowed earlier in the book by a few of the things that was said.
This is buzzing sound.
It's my phone.
Oh.
And then my last passage is on page 302 and 303. And this is when Amir is being beat up by Asaf, and he says that for the first time since the winter of 1975, he felt healed. And he laughed a lot, and Asaf got really mad at that. He's like, "What's so funny? What's so funny?" But Amir kept laughing because he finally felt healed of all just the guilt being taken away by finally being punished.
Healed.
And that all the emotional and mental trauma that he'd had for like however long it had been, he finally felt that go away through a physical beating.
Is that it? Yeah. Okay, my turn.
Connection.
I am the connector. So, my job is to find at least 5 connections between the novel and the world outside. Okay, so I've chosen 5 terms or ideas that we, I guess, open for discussion, because I feel like these things are worth talking about. Number 1, Taliban. What do y'all think?
So vague.
I wanted it to be big.
Not good.
Thoughts on the Taliban?
Well, at first,
I'll close it,
the people in Afghanistan actually thought it was good. Like, they were celebrating the day that it kind of brought, like, kind of some stability and peace.
Yeah. Rahim Khan had been dancing in the streets.
Yeah, all of them were, celebrating that the Taliban came in, because they were Muslims, right? And then they had freed Afghanistan from Russian?
Yeah.
Russies.
And at first that looked really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Finally happiness and joy. But no.
Yeah. So I guess connection to the real world, like
The Taliban.
people, the Taliban, but also people getting like confused or like lured into a certain like political group. They like a political group because they think it's going to bring them freedom, but they're actually tricked, and that still happens today.
It's like a revolution. Like, right after, during the revolution, people are excited about it, but then after they realize what it actually means, they're like, it's worse than before.
Yeah.
Make America great again. Make America great again. I'm gonna build a wall.
Okay, good.
Okay, that's pretty good. Next thing we're going to talk about are orphanages. Just the fact that war causes lots of deaths, right? The orphanages. And then we saw in the book that the orphanage that Amir visits, along with Fareed, along with Fareed, they basically find out that it's a very underprivileged orphanage where the director basically has no money and has to sell or rent out children to like these Taliban people so they can get money and like feed the rest of the children. So in our case, it was name.
The director?
The name of the child. Sarab, yes. It was Sarab that was rented out to SF. So that's why Amir had to go and pick him up from his old house. So what are some thoughts on that? Orphanages.
It's kind of ironic that they're trying to go find Sohrab in the orphanage, yet his father built an orphanage and it got torn down by the Taliban. And it's kind of an example of the destruction that it caused.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they tore down an orphanage, but they had to use some other factory place just to house the kids, and there's not even enough space for them. And that's where they're going from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even the orphanages there, like, it's not very good conditions at all, and the kids are being, like, raped a lot. Like, that was true with Sohrab. He had, like, mascara on his eyes, and, yeah.
They even said they didn't have enough bedding, so one of the kids froze.
Yeah, one of the kids like died from exposure or whatever.
Froze to death.
And there's also, that's the next part, right? 22 ended up with him fainting. Yeah, that's the next part.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about. There's something I want to bring up about that, but
22 is this part. 22 is this part.
no, when Sarah doesn't want to go back to the orphanage.
Oh, that's later. That's way
That's
later.
later. That's later. So that doesn't count. Next topic. We all don't really like this. Child rape and molestation. So in the book, what happens is, as I said before, Sarah gets rented out or sold to SF, and then he later reveals that he was being treated very.
They did bad
He was
things.
molested.
He said
Throw that out
they
there.
did bad things to him.
They did bad things to him.
Yes.
They put mascara on him. They made him dance. You can imagine what
Those
they
aren't
did.
the worst things.
Yeah.
You can imagine what they did.
We know.
You know,
And then in real life, like obviously this happened and still happens in places all over the world. So, thoughts?
I don't know. Not much to think about.
There's not much to
Except
think
it
about
just
besides
still
bad,
happens.
really.
It's pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward. It still happens today all over,
Mm-hmm. Bad
and still very bad.
happens. Should not happen,
Should not be happening.
But happens.
but happens.
yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
There's not really too much discussion on that one.
Yeah.
Next one we should talk about, I think, public stonings and executions. That's one thing, by the way. I thought it was worth bringing up because recently, like I think this book was written in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
So that was the time when the Taliban was in power in Afghanistan. That was before the Iraq War, Afghanistan stuff.
Yeah.
So nowadays, in our recent couple of years, it's been ISIS who's been doing this, like public stonings and executions. Not so much stonings, but executions. Just over the past few years, we've seen videos of neck cutting and head shooting and executions, just stuff like that in general. So I thought that was something that we could connect to our real world because that's an issue that we're currently experiencing. Thoughts? Comments? Not really concerns. 'Cause
It's pretty shocking, especially to like a Western audience when you hear about this kind of stuff, because like in this story they talk about like a stoning at halftime of like a soccer game, and it's like who in their right mind like in America would even like consider
It's
doing
just
that, right?
so different from
Yeah.
what you'd expect in North America, but not only different, but it just kind of goes against everything that like ethical standards, moral standards that people set up.
Well, it wasn't just a stoning. They also got Hassan to kneel down in the street and they shot him in the head.
Yeah.
And also his wife.
That was another part.
Yeah.
And SF did it too.
The halftime stoning was also by SF.
This guy just loves it.
Yeah.
Loves stuff. And he's also a drug addict.
He was like a Hitler fan, like.
You know,
What else can you say?
What else can you
already
say about
that
this guy?
is kind of-
Okay. Bringing up Hitler is actually a pretty good connecting point to what I wanted to talk about next, which is what Mir calls ethnic cleansing, something that SF apparently really likes the sound of. So what happens is Amir basically calls SF out for all his actions, and then SF's like, I do them just cause. And then Amir is like, that's in America we call that ethnic cleansing. And SF's like, ethnic cleansing. I quite like the sound of that. So, in real life, ethnic cleansing, I guess there's lots of examples. They're start back older in history. Probably the Greeks, like Spartans and Athenians, they fought a lot. And I think the Spartans ended up like winning some war and then like killed lots of Athenians. Romans, ethnic cleansing. I don't know if you guys remember like Great Socials, but Carthage or whatever, they like destroyed them. That was in Africa, by the way. And then if you want more recently, the Holocaust, Hitler, ethnic cleansing, Jews, gypsies, stuff like that. So thoughts, concerns. This should concern you. Thoughts?
Nope.
No
Does it
thoughts?
still happen a lot, like in modern times, like
Ethnic
ethnic
cleansing?
cleansing?
It still does in some places. Yeah.
Last year's socials, what was that thing? The Serbs? What was the thing that happened up in Romania
I
or
think it
whatever?
still happens.
I don't remember.
I don't really remember, but yeah, ethnic cleansing. I'm pretty sure that still happens.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it does.
Would you consider religious cleansing also part of ethnic cleansing? Would that count? Because if that counts, then it still happens, yes.
Yeah, I would say so.
I would say so.
Yeah, I searched up the definition of ethnic cleansing, and it's just the mass expulsion of or killing of members of an unwanted ethnic or religious group.
Okay, so it definitely happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it counts.
Okay. So that's it. That's it for me.
Okay. Any final comments
Final thoughts
On this section.
on this section?
before we
Or
move on to the
predictions.
So the section basically
Predictions.
ends with him unconscious.
After running out with Sorab.
Yep.
Yeah.
After suffering a beating.
So we'll see how
We'll see how
what his relationship with Sorab is like after Sorab
Mm-hmm.
has saved him basically.
The next
Because
part-
he shot Asef in the eye and somehow
In his eye.
that went into the eye and he's in a lot of pain.
It's in a socket right now or something.
Something like that.
It's
We
like,
don't know.
out!
Basically, Asef's in a lot of pain and I don't think we'll see him again. But
Yeah.
Well, the next part of Amir's plan is to take Sorab to the American couple that Rahim Khan told him about.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we should
So
see
they're
how.
traveling back
Yeah.
to where.
But we'll see how Sorab reacts after being freed from this place where he's been used for so long and being abused for so long.
So I guess.
Sorab should know who Amir was because he overheard what they were talking about with SF. He knows that
Yeah.
something was up.
Mhm.
Yeah, and Hassan told Sorab a lot about Amir.
Korea.
I'm sure that he'll.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure that everything will lay out.
Anything else?
Thank you for joining us for our 3rd annual Lit Circle
Annual.
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 Please
Ooh.
no.
We'll see you next year.
It's January the 8th.
2017.
Yes.
I haven't
2017.
showered since
It's
last year.
2017, Tim.